The former Oklahoma coach, Lincoln Riley, who after his first year, this has to be talked about. I brought this up last year when we did the full episodes where we would have long conversations about this. I said that he would not get fired after the 2024 season, but shit would start to heat up in 2025. And that has come to fruition. He had a great first year. Caleb Williams wins the Heisman. They go to the Pac-12 championship game. They get their asses kicked, and then they lose brutally to Tulane in the bowl game. That was where everything started to get rocky and to fall apart.
Yes.
8-5 finish in 2023 with Caleb Williams, the future first overall pick. They finished 18th in recruiting and 3rd in transfer portal recruiting. 2024, they moved to the Big Ten. They start hot. Everyone's calling Miller Moss a first-round pick, which was stupid. 7-6 finish 2024. They weren't physical enough. They weren't good enough defensively. 15th in high school recruiting, but 67th in the transfer portal. Blake, do not see enough from this roster that makes me feel that they're going to be competing for a Big Ten championship game. I think, plain and simple, what you were paying him and why you brought him in was to compete for Big Ten championship games. That has not been accomplished. He hasn't even gotten to a playoff in the 3 years that he's been there.
There's the size expectation part that I was talking about with these other two coaches now.
Okay. Last part I was going to add.
Before I ask any more questions or say anything else, what is their expectation?
Their expectation, I think, is a lot. Oklahoma should have high expectations, but the moving to a different conference in the timeline that they did it and the schedule difficulty that they have, I think makes it a little bit more complicated. Who did USC play this year that was so hard that they went 7-6? They're losing to the likes of Minnesota.
I can't. That's why I didn't want to say anything. And I was going to say, well, they beat LSU, they beat Michigan, which I don't know how you want to put that Michigan win. Like, how do you now frame?
Wait, no. Michigan won.
I mean, they lost. Yeah, correct. They lost the Michigan game. You're right. They beat LSU and they lost to Michigan and Minnesota. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what is that? Thank you. That even makes the point better. What about the Michigan loss? Where do you put that there? Ohio State lost to Michigan too.
I would consider the fact that when they played them, that was when they had zero offensive identity. They couldn't move the ball. So, but here are the other concerning losses. They lost to Maryland. They lost to a Washington team that was rotating quarterbacks.
What was it? Triple overtime to Penn State or overtime to Penn State?
Yeah, it was singular over. Actually, I think it was triple overtime. But they lost to them in overtime, which was a game that they should have won. I say all this to just kind of reiterate that they have taken steps backward. They have regressed year over year. What has been the bright spot? The bright spot was a year in which they got smoked in the Pac-12 championship game and lost to a G5 program in a bowl game. I don't know what Lincoln Riley has done enough to buy himself more time, other than the fact that his contract's enormous and that his buyout is probably too significant for them to be willing to pay at the current moment.
I can't argue with you on this. The thing that I would say, though, the one thing I want to point out about Lincoln Riley and him being on the hot seat would be this. He's averaging 8.6 wins in the 3 years that he's been at USC. Okay? I do think that of the tier of coaches that we've been talking about here, right, I don't think he falls in the Sam Pittman or he falls into the Brent Venables. Not yet, at least. Because, Joe, I know 8.6 he's got another track record of making playoffs, Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. I mean, it's a difference with Lincoln. I want to see what happens this year in a second year under DeAnton Lynn. Do they have more structure and have they developed better defensively to where they can get to some of these wins? Can they not lose to Minnesota? Can they not lose to Maryland? Do you have a game in the beginning of the season that you got to go on the road and play Michigan, who will be tough? I'm sure you do. Those are the questions that they have to answer here. Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. I can't argue, but when I think of hot seat, I don't know if he falls into it for me yet because of the contract.
Yeah.
Because he's averaging 8.5 wins this season. And I don't know, quite frankly, and I'm going to say this with as much grace as I can to USC fans. I don't know how much you care. I really don't. You want to know why? Because I saw a top 10 playoff Penn State team come in there, and it wasn't packed. It wasn't packed.
I think, and USC fans already don't like me, so frankly, I don't give a shit. That stadium is one of the biggest, most overrated pieces of junk that I've ever been to a game to. It is decrepit and falling apart. And I went to the Notre Dame USC game when Caleb won the Heisman. And that was one of the, by the way, Caleb Williams up close in person was amazing. That kid is unbelievable. I know that you don't think he's very good, but the stadium wasn't full against your biggest rival. Like that to me is kind of shown that this USC program, I don't even know how they had the money to like really pay him as much as they did. They shelled out a shitload of money to pay him. They do not have the same level of backing and commitment overall. I think historically USC, the desire is to win championships and go to national titles. But I think that since the Pete Carroll era, their lack of success has been reflective of the fact that the university as a whole, that city as a whole, don't really give a shit about USC. I really don't. I think that there are diehard fans, and that's it.
Well, I see the players talking about it all the time. I don't see the USC of old. And listen, it comes down to a couple of things. They have to recruit the state better. Lincoln has
complained about a lot. We have talked about a lot.
We have talked about a lot. For USC to get over that hump, they got to start locking the state down again. Again, the last time that you had any relevance at all, Pete Carroll had these guys on the staff. You ready? Ed Orgeron, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian.
That's
one. Ed won a national championship. He's the oldest. Steve Sarkisian's been in the Final Four of the college football playoff the last 2 years. And Lane Kiffin's brought on this to heights that they've never really been consistently. Let's just call it what it is. You know what they all had in common? What does Sark, Ed, and Lane all have in common? They're three totally different dudes. What do they all have in common? They recruited their asses off. They developed and recruited their asses off. Can you hear me? I see that I'm a little fuzzy here.
No, you're good. You're
okay. Listen, to get where they need to go, he's got to recruit better. I am interested to see how better they can get defensively, but for what it's worth, man, I'm with you. I don't think they get better.
Their schedule does look to be easier. So they really quickly, before we move on to your next guy to round out the segment, they get Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Oregon, UCLA. The home games that they have of those are Michigan State, Michigan, Northwestern, Iowa, and UCLA. So
who do they play out of conference? Any big name?
They're out of conference is a joke. They play
Notre Dame.
They play at Notre Dame. They play Missouri State and Georgia Southern. They don't have any challenging games.
So they can get to 9 wins.
Yeah, because like the landmines that I see on here that are guaranteed losses in my eyes are Oregon and
Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going on the road to Notre Dame, and Michigan and Illinois are going to be tough outs, but all of these other games are all winnable. So it's realistically
you got to go 1-3 in those 5 games, or 1-3 in those 4 games.
Yeah, but that's not, to me, that's not a win total enough. That's
well, they would have to win all the other ones, which would give them 9 wins.
Looking at the schedule, it's accomplishable for them to get to 10-2. If they don't get to 10-2 and they're anything less than that, I think it's a huge, huge failure.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could be right there, but again, goes back to the expectations. We've pretty much been talking about this.